Hello, everyone, and welcome to the International Ozone Association Rookie Ozone Professional Enthusiast and Students Virtual Career Development Panel. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today, and we look forward to this exciting event. Before we get started, we would like to do a quick introduction to the IOA-PAG Ropes Committee and discuss more about who the Rookie Ozone Professional Enthusiasts and Students are. We'd like to provide you with some webinar instructions, and at that point, I will pass it off to our moderator, Faith, for some panel introduction. After that, she will do some curated questions and ask the audience for any questions that they may wish to ask the panelists. We'll then wrap up around 2:25 Eastern Time. Before we let you go, we'll give you a brief highlight of some upcoming IOA events. So the Rookie Ozone Professionals, Enthusiasts, and Students Committee is a committee organized by the IOA to promote the membership and engagement of early career professionals. We're looking to get scientists, engineers, students, and people new to ozone introduced to the industry and give them a community that they feel like they can call home to help them network, collaborate, and grow their exposure to the ozone industry and have somewhere to ask those questions and really get some exposure that they might not otherwise get. This committee really looks to provide opportunities for learning from some of the experts within the ozone industry, but also gives them an avenue to provide service and get involved with the larger IOA association. Some of the initiatives that we are taking to get ropes involved in the ozone industry are activities, so social events, activities at upcoming conferences and in-person gatherings, distribution of digital content that is specifically focused to what ropes might consider valuable and practical. So things like webinars or social media posts to get them engaged and give them another pathway for understanding and knowledge within the ozone industry. Specific events and activities, highlighting what ropes are contributing to the industry, drawing some attention to the innovation and value that they are providing to the ozone industry and getting the word out about some of their activities. And also engagement as IOA-PAG ambassadors. So giving young early career professionals the ability to work with other ozone professionals around the world and serve as ambassadors to the Pan American Group Committee. Some of the specific activities and benefits that the Ropes Committee provides are things like the Ozone Guides mentoring program, where early career professionals and Ropes members are teamed up with more experienced ozone professionals, and they're given the opportunity to learn from each other. This is a great program that allows the experienced experts to provide back to new professionals in the industry, but also allows the new professionals to share some of their experiences with the mentors in this program. Social events, opportunities for collaboration. There was a paper published last year put together by a team of IOA members, including a large contingent of ropes, and this is something that we hope to continue moving forward. Tailored webinars such as the one today focused on the growth and development of ropes members, technical resources, promotion of ropes in the ozone industry through things like the Learning the Ropes profiles, where we highlight and introduce ropes committee members or ropes members of the IOA to the IOA at large. And a big benefit is free student membership. So if you are a university or college student at this point, registration within the IOA is free, and there's also a discount for many of the events that go on through the IOA as well. So the Ropes Committee members, we are an international group of early career scientists, engineers, and specialists. And this diverse background, both geographically as well as from our technical background, really allows us to diversify and have an understanding of the ozone industry at large. Having representation from the private consulting industry, academia, and the ozone industry has been a great way to provide collaboration opportunities and allow the ropes to learn about other people and how they might be otherwise able to participate in the ozone industry. If after the webinar today you're interested in becoming a Ropes member or participating with the Ropes Committee specifically, reach out to the email provided here and we can get you on the committee and get you all of the information you need to know about the different Ropes activities. Throughout this program today, if you have any audio problems, in the drop-down from GoToWebinar, there's details of how you can connect to audio. You can also use a phone call if your computer audio is not working correctly. Throughout the panel discussion, if you have any questions, please enter those into the questions box. Our organizers will be able to take those down and put those forward to Faith, that if there's time remaining, we'll be able to get to those questions, or as many of the questions as possible. So with that, I'd like to thank everyone again and tell you to enjoy the webinar. And at this point, I'd like to introduce Faith. Faith is a research project manager at Carollo Engineers and an active participant on the IOA Ropes Committee. Previously, Faith worked as a postdoctoral researcher with the Southern Nevada Water Authority. She received her doctorate in biorenewable systems from Pennsylvania State University. So thank you for moderating today, Faith, and thank you again to all the panelists. Enjoy the webinar.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you, panelists, for making the time to be here today, and thank you to our audience members. So as we all know, sometimes making an informed and meaningful career decision requires knowledge of the different career paths that are available. Today, we are delighted to have with us Ozone's experts with several years of experience from different sectors, including academia, consulting, industry, and utilities. We will have an opportunity to learn from the unique experiences that our panelists have had and in their respective career paths. At this time, our panelists will each have 4 minutes to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about their career journey, starting with Dr. Denise Funk, then will be followed by Charles Bott, Franz Med, and finally with Eric Watt. So, Denise, please take it away.
Actually, I'm not a doctor, so it's just Denise Funk. I have my undergraduate and master's degree in civil engineering from Georgia Tech, and my master's degree was focused on environmental fluid mechanics, which is a little bit different than some of the degree paths that my colleagues have went when they started developing their careers, and a lot of them are environmental engineers that do a lot of process work, but environmental fluid mechanics was a great basis for the start of my career in consulting. Currently, I am the National Specialty Leader for Oxidation and Disinfection for Brown & Caldwell, a consulting firm, and I've been with Brown & Caldwell a couple of years. Before that, I spent 5.5 years with the Gwinnett County Department of Water Resources. Gwinnett County is one of the large counties in the Atlanta metro area, serving about 1 million people with drinking water, water reclamation, and stormwater. And while I was there, I led a team of engineers that were developing projects, capital improvement projects, as well as helping operations staff solve current problems. And I was also a research director and developed the applied research program while I was there and got to do a lot of great work. Before that, I was with another consulting firm, CDM Smith, for 18 years and did a lot of drinking water plant designs and some wastewater. And that is where I first got my start in Ozone, starting by working on a project where I had not done the design, but I was doing the construction services, engineering services during construction, and learned a lot through that. So that's my brief introduction. I'll pass it on to the next person.
Thank you so much. Now we'll hear from Charles.
Okay, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, now you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Charles. Go ahead.
Okay, I don't know why it's moving slow to unmute. Okay, well, good morning, good afternoon. My name is Charles Bott. I'm currently with Hampton Roads Sanitation District. I guess I started with a bachelor's degree in civil and environmental engineering from Virginia Military Institute, and then went straight on to a master's degree in environmental engineering from Johns Hopkins University. And after that, I worked for a small firm doing mostly landfill work, actually, but a little bit of geotechnical engineering and some structural engineering as well. So kind of a strange. But after that, I decided to go back to graduate school. I went back full time at Virginia Tech for a degree in environmental engineering. That work was primarily related to activated sludge and process upset due to industrial inputs and all things really around the upset of the activated sludge process and DNR processes, nutrient removal processes. After that, I went to work in consulting. I went to work for a firm called Engineering Science that no longer exists. It was bought out by Parsons, and now it got folded into Parsons. And with them, I did primarily industrial wastewater work with a kind of a broad range of physical, chemical, and biological processes, including ozone. So mostly industrial wastewater, but also some municipal wastewater focused on nutrient removal. In fact, a lot of the industrial and municipal work was focused on nutrient removal. And from there, I actually transitioned into academia and took a position at VMI on the faculty. And my research work continued to be pretty applied, I guess, mostly focused on industrial waste projects and some unusual ones from, I guess, all over the place. And then I had an opportunity to take a position at HRSD, and I couldn't turn it down, actually. And so my position at HRSD is a combination of being kind of a technical director for the organization. I don't really supervise any people. There are two directors in our operations department, one director of operations that manages the whole department, and I serve as the director that and sort of as a technical director for the group. So primarily focused on treatment plants, but really a bit of everything. So yeah, technical director for the organization, and I also run our research program, which is primarily consists of graduate students from several universities working with us at one of our facilities on their project work. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Franz Mader.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. I'm Franz Mader. I started my career in, I did an associate degree in France in instrumentation and measurement, followed by a move to the UK doing a bachelor's degree in engineering physics at the University of Sheffield Hallam, which was followed by a PhD in X-ray fluorescence in organic chemistry. I then moved straight into the industry as actually a market analyst, which is very unconventional. You'd have thought I would have done that path that Faith did in terms of managing students, but the opportunity I was given was fantastic because it led me down the path and going into a career that I never would have done following my education. Subsequent to that, I moved to the US. I was grew my career from research analyst to marketing manager up to product manager, which is really the career that I found that I really enjoy. I was product manager at a company called Luxor Gas Cylinders. They made high pressure gas containment tanks. I was there for 10 years. Then I moved on to a big conglomerate called Amatec Electronics Company. I was a product manager for a while there. I was in charge of almost 100 million product lines. I now subsequently moved to been with Teledyne API for 6 years. I'm in charge of the what we call industrial gas product lines, which encompasses the ozone products and sensors. I'm in charge of a team of 13 people, which range from application engineering to some product engineers and tech support service engineers. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now we will go to Eric Watt.
All right, thanks, Faith. So my name is Eric Wirth. I am project manager of applied water quality research at the Southern Nevada Water Authority. And how did I get here? My journey started after high school. I went to a 2-year community college focused on engineering because I had always liked math and science, and continued to enjoy it, and transferred to West Virginia University, where I was able to pursue a bachelor's degree in civil engineering. And kind of took a greater interest in the environmental classes that I had there. And that's what really prompted me to pursue a master's degree where I could focus more on environmental engineering and chemistry and process design and so forth. So I transferred to Penn State, have a master's degree in environmental engineering from Penn State. And then I started my job search, which led me to a job with Black & Veatch in Las Vegas. So started with them and doing different process design, pipeline design, so forth. And it wasn't until they had a big client here in the Vegas area that needed a pilot plant operator. So they kind of switched me over to Southern Nevada Water Authority, and SNWA had a position come open. I applied, and it was really the onset of the creation of the research and development group here at SNWA, and that was in year 2000. So I've been here for 22 years. And over that time, been very fortunate to work on a wide variety of research projects. And kind of over the course of learning R&D, got involved with more projects, working with more PhD level researchers, and that prompted me to pursue a PhD in civil engineering from University of Colorado. So from 2011 to 2013, I worked on a PhD and received that degree. Continued to be active in the field. I, had the opportunity to serve as IOA-PAG president from 2018 to 2019, and currently serving as international IOA president-elect. So my term as president will start in 2024 through 2025. So look forward to the discussion today. It's back to you, Faith.
Thank you so much. And we do have a very diverse panel today, and we are really looking forward to learning from your experiences. And once again, thank you for sharing your time with us today. We will now begin with some questions to the panelists. Each panelist will have about 2 to 3 minutes to respond to each question. Towards the end of our session today, we will be taking questions from our audience. So dear audience, please do remember to submit your questions to us, and we will direct them to the panelists. So the work that our panelists do in their respective sectors make a difference in the water and the wastewater treatment field, as we have all learned from their diverse backgrounds. And right now, the first questions that we have for our panelists is, what are your favorite and your least favorite parts of your different jobs? And briefly share with us why you chose your current position. Some of you did go a little bit on that, to begin, we will begin with Eric. So Eric, take it away.
Okay, so I guess elaborating a little bit more on how I got to SNWA, and I think a lot of that kind of searching came for me when I was in college. I think Charles mentioned this, working at different jobs, and I did the same thing. I did a lot of internships over the summers. For example, I would work in transportation, so I was doing concrete slump tests, surveying, and really realized that I didn't want to do that. Another summer, I worked on flood control projects and doing earthen dam inspections and concrete channel inspections, which is fun, but still not quite there. Then another summer, I worked for abandoned mine reclamation. And there I started to get into water quality aspects and really enjoyed that internship, which I think really kind of gave me that springboard into environmental engineering. So I think that's kind of, I guess, maybe some advice for young professionals is to try those internships so that you get a feel for what you might like, especially if you're a college student right now. Take advantage of the summer experience.
Okay, and Eric, what are some of your favorite or least favorite parts of your job right now? Briefly.
Oh, so maybe I got off on a tangent there, but I think what I really like most about working in the utility industry is the difference that you can make. And especially here at SNWA, we have had the luxury of developing techniques and processes at either bench scale or pilot scale and have them translate into our full-scale treatment plans, so that we know that the work we're doing at a research level is translatable to full scale and impacts the water quality that everybody receives here in Las Vegas. And not only here, but also taking some concepts and approaches that we develop here and applying them in other systems around the country or even internationally.
Awesome. Thank you so much. How about you, France? What are some of your favorite and least favorite things about your job right now? And briefly share with us why you are in your current position.
So some of the favorite things I enjoy in my job right now is really the ability to, and it's kind of falls into what we're talking today, the mentor other people. I had this last couple of years was the first year where I feel like I'm able to pass on some of the knowledge that I've learned. In the past, I always felt very, I guess a tip for everybody listening is feel confident. You've got a great education. You are very smart, feel confident. And once you start feeling confident and applying everything you've learned over your career, pass it on to others. So I really enjoy mentoring and having the ability to manage other people and lead them to what the business is trying to achieve. So some of the things I don't or haven't enjoyed in my current position is navigating this COVID situation. It's been a very difficult time, whether it is from a personnel point of view and people skills and having the ability to help others out, as well as all the part shortages and the world right now in terms of everything that is making business situations even more difficult. So yeah, I would again, they're both two different things that kind of are engaging in each other. The things I like is managing people, but the things I don't like is managing people in a COVID situation. So, but that's part of the challenge. And the other thing I really enjoy currently, or have enjoyed over the years, is the ability to apply everything I've learned over the years. And finally, I guess that comes with maturity, probably, where you feel that you are now in a position where you really can make decisions quickly, and take moving forward with what we're trying to achieve.
Awesome, thank you. And now we'll move on to Charles.
Okay, yeah, I honestly think I've got the best job in the whole world. I get to do all the things I like to do and very little of the things I don't often want to do. And what I really like to do is technical work. I really enjoy working with graduate students and the students that are working with us. And at HRSD, we've got a lot of really cool projects going on both the wastewater side and on the reuse side right now. So it's just a tremendous opportunity for me now to do the technical work that I like to do, and to do the projects we like to do. So again, very similar to what Eric said, translating work from the bench scale to the pilot scale and then to full scale. That's really what I enjoy doing, and doing that when it provides either a nice treatment benefit in terms of water quality or a benefit in terms of cost savings for our organization and for the industry. That's what I really enjoy doing. I guess the thing I dislike doing is managing and dealing with bureaucracy, and it's taken me a long time, and I'm still obviously definitely not good at it, but it's taken me a long time to learn to be more patient and to be more understanding that those things are necessary. So
thank you for sharing. Denise.
Great. Yeah, there's a lot of technical people on this call that love doing technical work, and I'm also one of them. But for me, one of the favorite things about my work, especially in consulting, where you get to actually do the designs of these treatment facilities, is to be able to go from a concept of laying out the process units on a site down to the details of figuring out how the equipment's going to be laid out in the room and how the piping's going to work and how it's going to work well for operators, and for maintenance and going through the whole process and design and construction, and then getting to walk into that facility and see it operational. And then maybe even get to make improvements on it in the future. So to me, that's really exciting. I love that part of it. You can see how design work that I've been involved with and been on teams as well. It's not an individual thing. It's definitely a team effort, but there are certain parts that you get ownership of that are just so exciting to see come to life and be used. And then so those are kind of like the big projects. Those don't come around too often. A lot of times we're doing projects where we're making an improvement at an existing facility. And what's been really rewarding to me is when an improvement has been made that the operations staff is just so happy about. It's made their lives easier. It's optimized their process. It's just, I take get a lot of satisfaction out of those type of projects. And I'd say my least favorite part through my career was bureaucracy as well, and dealing with red tape. It took us a very long time to purchase a boat for water resources, which seems so obvious, but there was just so many hoops to jump through. So those things can be frustrating and take time. So that's probably some of the least favorite part. And in terms of design work, I think my least favorite part is reading and editing and developing maybe hundreds of pages of specifications. I don't know too many people who think, oh, specifications, I get to do those. They're very, very important though, and very necessary. And it's good when they're done and they're done well. You can have some satisfaction even if you didn't enjoy it.
Well, thank you so much. It's very clear that despite the bureaucracy that you all have to deal with, you enjoy your job and you find it very rewarding. So the next question I have is, what are some skills or training or education that you feel prepared you most for your career path? And this time we'll start with Charles.
So, I like to always, when faced with a problem and working with a team, make sure we always go back to first principles, be it from biology, physics, chemistry, whatever, mechanics. And in my opinion, that being able to fall back on really good foundation and first principles is important to me. And I like to push my teams and various groups that I'm with to always do that. That if we can't get back to first principles, then something's wrong, right? We're either there's a mistake somewhere, something's wrong, our thinking's wrong. We always have to start there. So that, in my opinion, that's critical. And what I find is that the best and brightest young engineers do that intuitively. They inherently do that, and I always look for that. So, and I will say that in the past, I had mentors that sort of drove that point home for me when I was, fresh out of graduate school and right into my first job. So, thanks.
Thank you so much, Charles. And just to clarify a little bit, do you find that you're using the same skill set in academia and also in consulting and utility as well?
Yeah, technical problems are technical problems. It doesn't. Yeah, and I've had the fortune to work always in the same area. Developing new treatment processes, characterizing wastes and figuring out how to treat them, solving basically treatment problems, regardless of the starting quality of the water. So
I see. Thank you. And Franz, how has your experience been? What skill set have you found prepared you most for your current job?
So interestingly, I know I mentioned I have a very diverse path, but my research background has actually set me up for my career, quite frankly. Just having the ability to attack a project in a way that you would attack a research project, looking at it from the hypothesis and how do we get to the hypothesis and how do we solve it and all the different iteration paths you have to get there. Asking questions is what I always tell people. don't be shy of asking questions, even the silly questions. You know, if you don't ask, you'll never find out. So that's one of the things. Another thing that really helped me in my career is moving country a few times. That's built resilience. That's helped figure out how, you know, build resilience in business. So in also the day-to-day job you do, you know, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, no matter what you do and what project, what road stop, what difficulties you have. Another big thing that I've learned, a tool that I've gained over time is I did very early on what's called the Myers-Briggs personality testing, and that, not only doing it but also understanding what it's done and how it's done and how it applies to others has helped me understand that everybody's different. Everybody's different. Not everybody's an extrovert, not everybody's an introvert, not everybody works the same way, and having the ability to know how to manage people, how to handle people, how to talk with them, how to extract information from introverts, how to slow down an extrovert. That's been a great asset, and I think that is a great tool. Additionally, some of the personal training that I've gotten over the years in the businesses I've been with, strategic training in terms of making sure you know how to lay out a strategy and why the strategy is laid out, but and how it goes with product development. So those things are all, to a certain extent, textbooks, and there's lots of TED Talks around that, but that has definitely been, that is in my tool set of what I've done and how I apply it every day.
Thank you for sharing. Now let's hear from Denise.
So what training and education prepared me, I'd say would be my master's degree. I did not want to get my master's degree. I kind of did it kicking and screaming, and I don't know why, because it was really important, and I've used things that I learned throughout my career. What specifically was helpful is that I did an applied research project where I was actually doing some physical research with jets and plumes and visualizing jets and plumes, and got to work with lasers but also tanks and pipes and making it all work. And that's learned important skills there, just within a small scale setting, and also learned the fundamentals that are important to apply during design. That within, for example, within water treatment facilities, you don't think of them as traditional jets and plumes like a diffuser in the river or something, but you have jets and plumes occurring all over the place in water treatment, and dealing with those in the hydraulics within process units is very important and has an impact on water quality and the performance of the processes. So anyway, I was able to apply all those things that I learned. So if someone's considering whether they should further their education, I would say yes, it's a good idea. And if you get an opportunity to actually do some physical research, whether it be in a lab, in a bench scale, or a pilot scale treatment facility, is a fantastic way to learn as well. So I highly encourage that.
Great, thank you. And finally, Eric.
All right, well, some great feedback already by the other panelists. I think trying to go and offer a new perspective would just be respect for working in a team environment and diversity of backgrounds of the folks on your team. Whether it's a research project or even if you're working in a treatment plant, you interact with so many other disciplines within one place. Operators, maintenance technicians, chemists, microbiologists, plant managers, resource managers, and kind of trying to be relatable to all those folks with the work that you're doing, I think is a real benefit to, being productive in your career and being able to do the things that you do. And you don't have to, realizing that you don't have to know everything, that you can rely on other resources, you know, in a team environment to help get the job done.
Thank you. Very insightful. And now we're moving on to mentorship. Career mentorship is very important, and oftentimes we're told to choose our mentors very wisely. How did you find and keep your mentors? Briefly, and let's start with Eric at this time.
Okay, so how do you find and keep your mentors? I think a lot of my mentors, I had the opportunity to either work with on a project as a collaborator, or I met through the years at different conferences. And then once I've had mentors, they've been very gracious with their network and time and introducing me to other folks that have become mentors of mine and have taught me a lot through the years. So I think that a lot of those are more like direct lines, either projects or conferences. And if that's not available, then, you know, I'm also a big fan of like LinkedIn, where you can go on and find a researcher or somebody that you know in the field and follow them, see what they post about. Also in journals, you know, if you have a favorite researcher or somebody that you find reading a lot of their papers, you can tend to follow them, you know, just by tracking their research record. So even though they may not be a direct mentor, you can still kind of find indirect kind of mentoring through those different channels.
Thank you so much. And now, if we'll be hearing from Charles now, and Charles, please comment a little bit how the finding mentors was important for you in both the academia and consulting fields too.
Yeah, you know, I was fortunate to have a mentor for my PhD, my advisor, who I've continued to stay close with ever since. After graduate school, you know, I didn't overlap with her. I went kind of a different direction, and that's a good thing, I think. You know, but since then we've come back, and you know, she's continued. Her name is Nancy Love from University of Michigan. Now she was at Virginia Tech, and we've continued to stay close professionally and personally. And you know, she's always been just an incredible mentor for me, as have, you know, other folks along the way. I'll have one other, you know, in my first job in consulting, I got to work with the technical director for industrial wastewater for the firm, and he was just awesome. And you know, he was an incredible mentor for me. And still to this day, he's retired, but still to this day, he will call absolutely any time, and my phone rings, and I always look forward to him calling with some question, who knows what it might be, but and some topic of conversation that he wanted to talk about. And it's nice because I can still call him, and we haven't, you know, really worked together in, gosh, almost 30 years now. Well, not that long, 25 years. So anyway, it's really nice to have those mentors, and you know, I think graduate school gives an opportunity to sort of inherently have them, but they come along later, and maybe in unexpected ways, I suppose.
Okay, thanks for sharing. So keeping communication lines seems very important then. How about you, Denise? Has it been important for you to find mentors in the same career path, or have you found mentors also outside of the career path of your career path?
Yes, as Eric mentioned, some of the mentors that I had met through working on a project, and then got to know them through working on projects. And it's helpful, I think, to be able to do that, because you really get to work alongside them, and then you have a reason to interact with them. And a lot of times, folks who are pretty high up in there and been in their careers a long time are very busy. So I would recommend, if there is somebody, maybe even within, if you're in a big company, if there's somebody that you'd like to work with, you could try reaching out to them and seeing what you can help them with. And that'd be a fantastic way to get connected and to learn from them. And then also with, I wanted to mention the International Ozone Association. What I didn't mention during the my introduction was that I've been actively involved for, I'm sure, about 10 years now, at least. And through that involvement and getting involved with committees and working on different projects, conferences, being on the technical committee, you meet so many people, And it's a really great network to have, and people from different areas, and you can ask questions, and it's a fantastic community of mentors.
Thank you, Denise. And for Franz, how different has your experience been with mentorship in comparison to the other experts?
So it's actually been very similar. Mentorship has come from my PhD studies and academia to a certain extent. But there's two aspects of mentorship, right? One was from that side. The other one was from more of a business side of thing. And the best mentor I have had and still have is the one that combined a little bit of both. He's worked with me since the beginning of my career. In fact, he's the one that helped me make a choice in going down a marketing path versus an engineering path by just listening to me. But I wanted to go to maybe a different aspect of your question. How do you find and keep mentors? Well, how do you find mentors? I don't always think you can find them, and maybe they're not who you think they are. So sometimes the mentors are around you and you don't believe that they are your mentor, and then years go past and you realize that actually, I really like the work that Denise does, and I think that she actually helped me out and she figured out how to get me through this project. I'm going to ask her to see if she wants to be my mentor. And the second aspect of what I just mentioned is really critical. If you see somebody that you think may have mentored you indirectly, now go and ask them, because that they continue doing it. Because if you don't ask, you don't get. That's my experience. But when you do ask and you do have a mentor, you have to listen. You have to question yourself. You have to. They will tell you some truth that you might not want to hear, and you shouldn't be bullish, because those are the people that will help you get through some of the difficult times sometimes.
Thank you so much. So far, I've been learning stuff myself, and I'm sure the audience is as well. Right now, I would like to thank the audience members who have submitted questions, and also encourage you to keep submitting those questions, as we will be transitioning shortly to asking your questions now to the panelists. So also still on the topic of mentorships, I would like to ask our panelists about it's eventually us young professionals will become the next leaders and mentors. And do you have any advice on how to be a good leader and how to be a good mentor? Very briefly, if I'll start with Charles.
You said Charles, right? I'm sorry.
I did, yes.
Okay, yeah. Gosh, that's a really hard question. One of the things I find is that I get busier and busier. Sometimes I feel like I don't do a very good job of that, and that I just have trouble kind of managing everything and all the projects and keeping up with all of the folks that I'm working with. I don't know. I feel like sometimes the best thing I can do is try as hard as I can to manage my time well, and so that I can simply spend enough time with people that I'm working with, and people in my group here at HRSD. Just finding time to get to spend the time with them, to work with them on their projects, is probably the most important part for me sometimes. So thanks.
Thank you. How about you, Franz? Any insight for us young professionals on mentorship?
Make time is what Charles said. That's what I definitely is one of the things. Make time for the people, listen to them, and set the egos aside. I think that's very, very big thing to be a good leader. You have to listen. You have to not interject as quickly. You have to know your strength, but also know your weaknesses, and don't hide from the weaknesses. I think surround yourself with people that help with your weaknesses. I think that's a key thing. So make time, and listen to the people.
Thank you. Eric, any insight for us on mentorship?
Yeah, on how to be a good leader or a good mentor.
Yes.
So I think how to be a good leader, I would just use two words: be proactive, and trying to find opportunities for yourself, whether it's a committee or submitting an abstract to give a talk somewhere, or just trying to be proactive in finding those opportunities for yourself, and not relying on others to try to offer them to you. That's part of being a leader. So I would say be proactive. And then I think as far as being a good mentor, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of my mentors have been very generous in sharing their knowledge, sharing their expertise, sharing their network, sharing their opinions, and also sharing opportunities.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. Denise?
I think to be a great leader, you need to have integrity and be honest with people, and to be able, what Eric mentioned before, be able to talk with people with all different backgrounds and all different levels within the organization, and treat everyone well, as you would want to be treated, and to recognize the importance of everyone's job, and that everyone comes from a different perspective. And those perspectives you can learn from. You can learn from everyone. I think those are really important qualities of a leader. And being honest. Don't ever mislead through leadership. And I think with mentorship, it's being willing to share your time, as was mentioned, and all the other things that Eric mentioned. Share your networks, and I think there's a lot of people who want to be able to share with you.
Thank you so much. Now let's ask a question about the future outlook. How do you see the ozone industry evolving in the next 5 to 10 years, and what should we as young professionals look forward to, or look into for that matter? So let's begin with France.
So from a technology point of view, I think there'll be, in the next 5 to 10 years, there'll be technology disruption. I think AI will disrupt things. I'm not sure if the industry is fully ready for it, but we will definitely see some changes going forward. So I think that will be mostly, and the new products will come in, the new products will get tested, they'll might be used to the artificial intelligence that they have, or they might not. But I think that's going to disrupt the industry.
Yeah. How about you, Denise?
I think data analytics is going to be very important and help us with optimization and with operation and maintenance. I'm hopeful that ozone generation technology will continue to become more efficient, and that will help reduce the amount of power required. I'm hopeful within the next 10 years that will happen.
Right. And let's hear from Charles.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree that sensors and control systems and data analytics will continue to advance really quickly. I mean, we're seeing that happening now. Yeah, I'm sure technology around ozonation will also continue to advance. I mean, I think of course energy usage is it needs to continue to improve, and it certainly has, of course. And I think that probably the application of ozone in wastewater reuse is almost certain to grow. I mean, I think that's already been evident. So yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Charles. Eric?
Yeah, I think on the ozone front, I think meeting challenges related to climate change and alternative water supplies. So climate change being, cyanobacteria type issues, cyanotoxins, taste and odor driven episodes, and certainly water reuse is a growing sector within the municipal sector. I'm also pretty interested to see where nanobubble technology goes in the coming years. I think there's some potential there, you know, on the cyanobacteria front, potentially to treat blooms or shorelines. And not only within the water reuse sectors, but there's so many other industrial applications of ozone that I think have opportunity for growth in the coming years. So, you know, things like zoos or aquariums, aquaculture, you know, ballast water treatment, you know, food preservation, laundry, medical. You know, IOA has an upcoming webinar on horticulture applications. So there are a lot of other applications that have had this niche kind of group working on them that I think also have a lot of opportunity in the future.
Okay. Thank you so much, panelists. At this point, we are going to initiate asking the questions that the audience have shared with us. And to start with, one question from Kilyashi Kapuraju. The question is, how much research time and effort is required before a new technology is implemented at full scale? And let's start with Eric.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I'll give you an example of a process that we looked at. This is one of the first research projects I had the opportunity to work on, where we looked at using chlorine and ammonia to control bromate in our full-scale ozone system. So we probably piloted that technique for about a year in order to develop enough data and repeatedly demonstrate performance to install those chemical feed systems in our full-scale plants. And even then, it takes time to design the chem feed facilities. So you probably add 6 months to another year to design those systems. So overall, it could take probably about 2 years-ish, in that case, to go from research to full-scale implementation.
Okay. Denise, would you like to comment on that question?
And I think Eric's example is probably the quickest I've ever heard. I mean, that's really fantastic to have that speed, because you need a certain amount of data, seasonal data that you mentioned, a year. But if you're talking about like a new technology, a different manufactured method, like a different dissolution technology, it can take 10 years to bring that kind of thing to market, from the product development to testing on a pilot or even a full scale, and then actually marketing that, because at least the municipal industry is very risk averse, and there's great reasons for that, right? Because we're providing drinking water to people, and we're doing in water reclamation, we're protecting our environment. So there's a good reason for risk averse, but we have to. I think that Eric's example is so great because it's applied research that can help things happen faster, right? So that you can do things without risk that prove a technology works. And I think as an industry, we have to get faster. It can't be 10 or 15 years before we get a new technology that's accepted by the industry. So anyway, that's my take on it.
How about you, Franz? What's your take on that?
So Denise is right. It can take up to 10 years to launch new products. It can also, Eric is also right, it can take up to a year to launch products. I've had the opportunities to do both. What I've learned over the years is what's called MVP, minimum viable product. So to do a quick launch, to get a product out there, get what's called a minimum viable product out there, get it to fail fast or get it to succeed as a minimum, and then improve on it. So I launched a power supply product 10 years ago, and it took 5 years. It took 1 year in the making 4 years in testing and getting it through quality and so forth, and finally to get it launched. So it varies. It really varies on the product, the skill set, whether it's a completely brand new brain hot idea that's never been out there, or whether it's a Me Too product that's already been validated in the marketplace.
Okay. Thank you. I don't know if Charles, would you like to comment on this question?
Yeah, I mean, so if 10 years is a boundary condition that we don't want to get to, the question is how fast can we go? And you know, at HRSD, we often talk about using research to manage risk appropriately. So our research program is focused on exactly that. One analogy I often use for our commission and other stakeholders I know is that, you know, if we're doing research on how to rebuild an engine, and we understand that, and we send somebody out to change the oil and they run into a problem, chances are we can deal with that problem quite well with the expertise we've built in house, and that's exactly what we mean. That you know, we're going to run into problems with new technologies, and being able to manage through that is really important.
Thank you. And then our next question is about your experience. Do you find that there is good collaboration between utility, academia, and industry? And just based on your experience, is there enough collaboration, or are these career paths existing as silos? Let's begin with Denise.
I think there is, there's definitely collaboration. I think there's always room to improve that. I've seen some nice collaboration on Water Research Foundation projects where they have utility participants and academics might be involved doing the part of the study as well, and then also consultants who work on designs, and I like that type of collaborative project. So that's definitely have seen that.
Okay. Franz?
I think just the nature of this organization is showing that there's collaboration in those fields. I think that having industry people like myself on some of these panels, having the ability to pick up the phone and call in Eric and having questions that I probably would not know how to use a sensor necessarily in his application is great, without him feeling that I'm selling him something. I think that's the important piece of collaborating.
Let's hear from Eric.
Do you agree, Eric?
Yeah, I think in the municipal industry, I think we see really good collaboration between academia, industry, and utilities. I think since we're on an IOA webinar, I do think that there's room for improvement on the industrial side. I do think a lot of those applications tend to stay more in the industry silo without seeing so much involvement from end users or academia, you know, coming to conferences and sharing information. So I think there's room for improvement there, process optimization and further vetting of those types of applications.
Okay. Thanks. How about you, Charles? What's your take on that?
I think for the sake of time, I think it's what I would have said has already been covered. I think we can move on. Yeah.
Sounds good. Our next question from the audience is the audience member is wondering, will the water industry be as lucrative as a field like the semiconductor industry? So the government has devoted some money under CHIP Act last year to the semiconductor industry, but is there anything similar likely to happen in the water industry? So just trying to figure out the growth opportunity for the water industry. Let's start with you, Charles.
Yeah, I think the proposed infrastructure funding has quite a bit of water funding in it, is my understanding. Both clean water revolving loan funding and drinking water revolving loan funding. So yeah, I think there's as well as grant funding. So I'm not familiar with the details, but I think there's a lot of opportunity coming, subject to Congress moving that through, which I guess is certainly questionable.
And Franz, what's your opinion?
I ditto Charles. The EPA has put in some requirements for that. So that covers not only air quality, but also water treatment. So as he mentioned, it depends on getting it through. So.
That's good. And Eric, do you have something to add?
No, I don't have anything else to add.
Okay. How about you, Denise?
I just want to mention that water is life, so it's always going to be important and funded. I think as the water sector, I think we need to do maybe a better job of pricing our product service, what's provided to the public, and I think there are regulations that are going to drive improvements in both water and water reclamation that are going to driving the growth of the industry.
All right, thanks. And our next audience question is about career path in industry, and I think I'll address it to Franz. So how does an industry career path differ depending on the level of education, and what value does a master's or a PhD hold in that career path?
I think one of the panelists said, I think it was Denise, said, get your master's, get your education. I think it's very important, not only for your own personal development. I think you can learn a lot, but also I think for the industry today will look at education. But the industry will also look at resilience. So what has it taken you to get to where you're at? And how many job hops have you done and why? Not so much the quantity of job hops, but why? What has it taken you from going, maybe a career change, maybe, deciding that's not the field for you, and why? My personal experience is I took 3 years out to bring up my children, and coming back into the workspace after was what I was very worried about. But being honest and just telling the truth and just bringing it up and mentioning it, but also doing it, taking the 3 years out has helped me grow. No matter whether I missed something in the industry or whether I missed something in my career, actually helped me grow as a person and bring that back into the field. So I'm not sure if I'm answering the question. I think education is key. Absolutely. Having a master's is definitely key. I think over the years, just, the quality of a master people may think it's not as valuable as it was a bachelor years ago. Not necessarily true, but I think having the education will help getting a job or better job in the industry, but having experience as well is definitely key.
Thank you. Our next question is about work-life balance. So it's no secret that our careers can sometimes be consuming to negatively impact our personal well-being. Tell us briefly about your work-life balance and any advice to students and young professionals on how to find that balance themselves. So I'll start with Eric.
Yeah, this is another great question, and one that I still try to find the right answers to. I think my experience with work-life balance is it just kind of ebbs and flows. At certain times there's a lot, more pressure in your job where you've got a deadline, or, perhaps you have conferences or meetings that take away time from family and friends. And the best approach that I've been able to use is just time management and just trying to make sure that I block out time for both, you know, efficient at work and trying to make best use of my time, and that I'm available when I'm not in the office for friends and family.
Thank you. Denise?
I wanted to touch on work-life balance with children. There's different approaches, and everyone you have to figure out what's the best for you. For me, when my children came along, I actually went and worked part-time for many years, and that I was able to do some fantastic work during that time. But I was able to spend a lot of time with my young children as well, which I wouldn't trade for anything. And then I have colleagues that. One colleague I'm thinking of, she had 3 children, but she continued to work full time. She used an au pair that came and lived in her house and helped with childcare, and she was able to continue working as much as she wanted to. So there's just different approaches, and you have to figure out what's important to you. And if you think about it, if you look back on it, what you're going to be happy with, that you know, oh, you don't want to have any regrets, right? So I think I'd take that approach when you're making decisions about how to balance things. And what I found was that in consulting, it was a lot, I had that flexibility where I was able to work part-time, and that was very supportive.
Thank you. How about you, Charles? How has it been for you?
I mean, this is hard always. I know, and everybody has, I know for me, you know, one of the things I do, like Eric said, sometimes it comes and goes. I try that when things are really busy, I try to just get up earlier so that it doesn't interfere with, you know, having dinner at home and that sort of thing. You know, I guess after getting pretty unhealthy some years ago, I realized that I really needed to have an hour a day for me to exercise, and it makes me so much better at work and so much better at home, and just helps my attitude significantly. And now I make sure I schedule that and very sort of religiously try to stick to that, so that, yeah, because I think it's critical to you know, to critical anyway for me to maintain good attitude as much as possible when I can. So but yeah, the hard part is just managing through time. You know, it's just a real challenge. My kids are nearly out of the house now, and so, you know, things change, I guess, a little bit as the kids get older. But yeah, I try really hard to not do much in the evening, and I have done that for a long time. So busy in the day, but try not to be busy in the evening.
France?
Well, Faith, it's actually quite refreshing to hear everybody having the same problem as me. Work-life balance, there is one. You have to make it. You have to make time for it. You have to make time to work out. You have to make time for yourself. And that starts with looking at your calendar, or you're looking at your day, and just like Charles said, make sure you go home and decide not to do anything. The work will be there tomorrow. Like Denise said, make sure you make time for your children. They're gonna grow up. They won't be there tomorrow anymore, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things I do, I commute a lot every day. So I try and do 2 things in that commute. One is to use self-help tools, books, any of that type of stuff, whether it's business related or even how to deal with teenagers related. That's another thing. Or I also want to make sure that quality versus quantity of time spent with your friends or family, and surround yourself with happy people. And I know it's easier said than done, but the negativity brings you down. So using the drive home to bring up the happiness again usually helps me become the better mother coming home. But it's a challenge. It's not a balance. it's a challenge. It's a work-life challenge.
Thank you all for sharing. And seems like it's something we all have to work towards and figure out what works best for each of us.
Mhm.
And another question we have is in honor of Women's History Month, what women have inspired or positively impacted your career? And I'll start with the women in the panel, and let's start with France.
Can you repeat the question?
The question is asking what women have inspired or positively affected your career in honor of Women's History Month.
So the one person that really affected me and is the COO of Facebook, Sheryl Sandberg. She wrote the book Lean In. That is one that I would recommend to anybody to read that's female in this industry. Lean In, a synopsis, it says, sit at the table, get up there and sit at the table. Don't sit back and wait to be called out. If you feel you have something to bring, sit at the table. So she's really impacted my career and my view of how to do things. That's my tip.
Denise?
So two people came to mind, two women came to mind. Annabelle Kim, who was an engineer, who was a little bit ahead of me in my career, that I met as a young engineer, who just showed me how to approach work and how to do a great job technically, but be a good communicator as well. And then another colleague who really believed in me. So that had a big impact because for some reason she believed in me sometimes more than I did myself. And that had a huge impact on my confidence and going, oh yes, I do have something to offer here, and being able to speak up. So
thank you for sharing. Charles?
Yeah, I mean, I still look up to and still my former PhD advisor, Nancy Love, is an important mentor for me. And she's just an amazing person. And I try really hard to emulate a lot of what I learned from her a long time ago and still continue to do.
Thank you for sharing. Eric?
Yeah, I think several names come to mind for me. The one that rises to the top, I think, was Jeanette Chiari for me. Jeanette was a project manager at the Water Research Foundation for a lot of years, a lot of my projects, and really spent a lot of time having good discussions with her about, the projects we were doing and, sharing her network, and just very gracious with her knowledge and expertise and instilling that confidence that the work that you were doing mattered and it was changing the industry.
Thank you. We have a couple more audience questions. So the next ones, we urge panelists to maybe take just 1 minute to summarize their response, so that we can get through as many questions as possible before we end today. One audience question we have is, what approach do you recommend for a beginning professional? Should you dig deep into one discipline or subject matter, or should you get broader experience in multiple disciplines? And let's start with Charles.
Yeah, I was fortunate to have an opportunity, I guess, similar to Eric. I have also slumped my fair share of concrete, and I'm good on that. And also spent enough time on landfill liners and covers that I'm good on that as well. So yeah, I mean, I very much value the experience I had working in other disciplines in civil engineering anyway, and it taught me a lot. And I learned that I really liked treatment, and I liked all of the science and the mechanics that go along with it. And And I'm not sure that I would have recognized as much that how much I like that without having some of those other experiences. So thanks.
France?
I think the best thing to do is to, if you have the opportunity to do internship and what you think you might want to be or what you might want to like to do, because you might be that person that wants to do medical field and then realizes they faint in the operating room. So it's worth actually doing the internship and really understanding, because you may have a different idea of what it actually is. So various experiences and various getting multiple different aspects of what you're going after is worth it. Doing concrete is one thing, and Charles and Eric, I have done my share of concrete too, so in my pastime.
Okay, thanks. How about you, Eric?
Yeah, I think internships have been, critical for me in finding my path, but, everybody's different, and there are so many opportunities in this field, for involvement. Like we kind of touched on a lot of them earlier. So I just, it's tough to really get perspective as to what each different, job might do. Like doing something, like Denise does design and Franz does instrumentation. And so I think in addition to just internships, getting to conferences and kind of walking around and seeing what different folks do can also enlighten you if you like a certain field, what you want to do in that field or what interests you the most. I think that could also be a help in finding the right path.
That's good. Thank you. Denise?
Yeah, that's a great question about, should you go broad or should you go detailed like right away? And I kind of think that the broad approach, as we've all been discussing, gives you a lot of perspective on what you might like and enjoy the most. But if there's something that you really want to know more about, learn more about it. See if you can, becoming an expert in a particular field can be a great thing to do too. So, and oddly enough, I've mixed concrete as well. So I don't know what it is about concrete in this panel, but yeah.
Anyway. Thank you all for sharing. Our last question from the audience today is about prioritization. Could you please talk a little bit how you prioritize tasks and projects, and if there is a technique or a tool that you have used that helps you, would you please share that for the management of different projects or tasks, considering the vast majority, considering that you work with on a lot of projects at the same time? Let's start with Franz again.
There's this big word called multitasking, which absolutely doesn't work. So prioritizing is key. The way I prioritize the workload is I apply the 80-20 rule to kind of my prioritization. What is it that's going to bring the biggest reward quickly? What is going to support the team fast? What's going to make sure that the project moves along quickly? So, but we all do it. We all get into the weeds of doing the day-to-day things that suck our time away. So writing out the list of things that need to be done allows for that prioritization, whether it is manually or through the computer or however. It's just having a visual of what it is that needs to be done is critical.
Okay. Denise, how different or similar is your experience with Franz?
I think similar. I always feel like I need to improve on this prioritizing, because there are always way too many things to do, and then you can get lost in the urgent tasks, and they may not be the most important ones, but they have to be done. So I tend to I make to-do lists and prioritize and I categorize my to-do lists, and so that I can check them off. And I also include the bigger goals in there as well, and then break those down into smaller steps so that the important things don't get lost with all just the tyranny of the urgent things.
Yeah, thanks. And Charles.
Yeah, likewise, I'm pretty, I don't know, pretty ridiculous about my lists and how it interacts with my email. And for me, managing email is a huge challenge. It's hard to keep up, but between my email and my list, I have a pretty elaborate system that I've evolved over the years that I would never tell anybody about because it's ridiculous, really, but it's what it is and it works for me. And yeah, so that's it. Thanks.
Eric, do you have something to add?
Yeah, all good answers. I think just purpose and impact, I think, help to drive the projects we choose to pursue. But obviously, certain projects receive different priorities and have different schedules, and yeah, certainly just managing email can be quite a challenge.
Yeah. Okay. So we have come to the end of the question list that we have from the audience, and I would like to take this time to summarize our panel today and by thanking our panelists. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us and your expertise, and also being willing to tell us some of the things that work and the things that do not work. It has been great. We have learned a lot from you all, and also looking forward to opportunity to give back in ourselves as we grow in our careers as well. Now, to the audience, thank you for attending the panel, and thank you for the great questions that you have submitted that have also improved our discussion that we have had today. And also thanks to the organizers that were working behind the scenes to make sure the panel ran smoothly. At this moment, I'm going to turn it. Sorry, go ahead, Denise.
Faith, I was wondering, there was one thing that I didn't get to mention that I wanted to mention during this panel. Okay. They never seem to be the right question, so I'm going to just jump in here and mention it. So to all those who are starting out, who are maybe in school, take that public speaking class that you don't want to take, because communication is going to be vital whatever career path you take. And even if you're out of school, there are other ways that you can work and improve on communication. And I just wanted to make sure that I shared that with the panel today and with the audience.
Oh, that's really helpful. Thank you. Public speaking is definitely a challenge and something that I personally am working towards improving. So thanks for sharing that. Any other panelists have something to share, some final remarks before we hand it over to Mike?
And everyone else, one of my tip that I would give to people starting out is make decisions, even the hard ones, make them decisively and make them quick. If you don't like something, move on. If you like something and you really want to go after that path, don't procrastinate. Make decisions.
Absolutely. Thank you. Eric and Charles, anything you'd like to add before the end?
I'll just add one thing, since we are on an IOA webinar, is that if you are new to the industry, really try to get to an IOA conference. It's a pretty small conference, maybe 200 folks. So it really gives you an opportunity to get good quality one-on-one time with experts in the field in whichever sector or industry you might be interested in.
Thank you. Charles, anything to add?
No, thank you for the opportunity to participate. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and thank you all once again. And right now, I'll hand it over to Mike for some closing remarks.
I will reiterate the thank you to all of the panelists. That was a very informative session. I really appreciate all of the information you've provided. France really cutting to the punch at the end there, telling us to make quick, decisive decisions. Procrastinating on decisions is generally something I enjoy doing, so that's really hard-hitting and something I'll have to work on in my career to make sure I focus on the biggest priorities instead of everything else that you can get swamped into. So again, thank you everyone for that insight and your time today. It's been great to learn from some of you about all of these different aspects of being an engineer and an ozone professional. I'm looking forward to all of our careers. With that being said, I'd also like to just point out a few more IOA events that are upcoming. As Eric mentioned during the panel today, there is another industrial committee webinar on April 21st from 8 to 9:30 Pacific time, ozone and horticulture. You can go to the IOA-PAG website to get information about registration. And also, very excitingly, the IOA-PAG annual conference is again returning to an in-person event as of right now. I am very excited to see many of you in person. It's been far too long since we've been able to do that. So I look forward to seeing all of you there in Las Vegas in August. We look forward to seeing that, and there's going to be a suite of ropes activities announced. We've been talking about that today, about some of the things that we're going to do to build up this community now that we can see each other in person and start to form those collaborations. So I am really excited to get this off the ground from taking it from a virtual platform to an in-person, real-life platform as well. With all of that, again, thank you to our audience for attending today. Thank you to our panelists for taking the time to answer all of these questions. Thank you to Faith for moderating, and I look forward to seeing you all in the future.